Should NATO engage?
That question is troubling. And what I'm seeing at the moment is a lot of people that said we had no place in Syria, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan are all now saying, why are we not in the Ukraine yet? The same people, the metropolitan liberal elite, the mainstream media, are hyping this thing up. It's almost as if people want a World War III. They want escalation at this point. They're asking all the questions in a very worrying way, to be honest. People like Gordon Brown are talking about war crimes and such. Where was Gordon Brown when New Zealand and Australia were putting tyrannous, draconian measures on their people? Where was he when Canada was freezing the bank accounts of people that supported a charity fighting for freedom?
Or during the Iraq War.
Where was he with Tony Blair?
Was then. Yes. But the double standards and the hypocrisy and the hyping up of all of this is terrifying.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think NATO should intervene yet because I'm not finished watching Putin embarrass himself. He's clearly got a Potemkin army. It looks good in the parades, marching past him, and they all turn and salute. But when it actually comes to the crunch on the battlefield, they're being absolutely humiliated. We've got this vastly more militarily powerful nation. I mean, this is like if the UK and France decided to, and Germany decided to invade Wales. You know, to put it into scale. And obviously, you know, Wales has got fantastic soldiers, fantastic national spirit, just like Ukraine. But you know, you'd think we'd be able to do it in a weekend. Russia is being completely humiliated. They even released a victory statement. This is the hubris and the ego of Putin. Russia released a victory statement because they assumed they'd have done it. They had it scheduled. It went out. Now Russian troops, they're deserting. They're damaging their vehicles, putting holes in the fuel tanks, so they've got an excuse to desert and leave the battlefield. They don't want to be fighting the Ukrainian brothers and sisters. I think the whole thing's ridiculous. And now that Putin's been exposed as this, not just a tyrant, but a completely hapless, useless tyrant who can't even take, like, you know, a former bloc of the Soviet Union. I can only see two options. So Putin is either going to be felled from within, so somebody's going to tickle his ear with an ice pick, and he'll be taken down in the classic Soviet palace coup, or China, which really needs Russia's resources, needs the energy, needs the minerals. It's going to see how militarily weak Russia is and annex Russia. And to be honest, that might not be the worst idea.
Well, you've missed the third one, that he might feel so backed into a corner that he feels he needs to press the button because he's got nothing else to lose because he's lost already. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, that is the worrying thing because he doesn't seem to be operating under the sort of rational calculus of a normal country's leader.
Do you think
he's operating emotionally and he's operating with hubris and ego, which is dangerous?
You say that, but I think that this man has calculated this. This is a calculated move. The whole pincer movement around the outside of Ukraine, which is a classic move. They've done that before.
They've tried it, but they haven't done it. There's still, there's a 40-kilometre logjam going into Kyiv.
But this is in response to your comment that he's just acting on hubris and ego. I'm saying that he's acting in a calculated fashion. It might not be going according to plan, but he has planned it. This isn't just I'll just go in and do that.
Well,
and actually, I suspect his troops coming in were a distraction from the fact that he actually wanted to take all the coastal areas of Ukraine first. So he had the weak troops coming in whilst the ones who knew what they were doing.
So do you think Putin's plan was to completely cripple Russia economically and culturally? Do you think his plan was to completely be humiliated on the world stage?
No, what I'm saying is
with his army exposed as weak and hapless?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that he had a plan. It's not ego or hubris. It was calculated. It's just going wrong.
I think Nana's right. Of course he has a plan. Of course he knows what he's doing. Everyone's saying, oh, he's a madman.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Acting irrationally.
Does.
Of course he does. This is part of the plan. If you read his victory statement, he has a vision.
His victory statement...
Well, he's even planned that, hasn't he? He's even planned that.
Where's the victory?
But it's a very...
Where's the victory?
But of course there isn't one. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that he has a very clear mission that he wants to achieve, and it's a different world vision to what we see. But that doesn't make him insane. I think he's a very bad man. But to paint him off as irrational kind of disregards everything that he's trying to do, and I think that's a very dangerous thing to do.
His actions have had the complete opposite effect to what his intended plan was. His intended plan was to, almost recreate the Soviet Union, and actually it's just driven, and also to weaken NATO and to weaken the European Union. Actually, it's strengthened Europe. It's strengthened NATO.
So if
all the European
so
countries are upping the amount of money they spend on defence and the amount of money they spend on NATO.
That's all very well, but if they're so strong, then should NATO be getting involved? That's the question.
No, I mean, that would escalate it to the level of World War III. So, I mean, I don't think, as much as I'd like to see house prices come down in London, I don't want it to be from house prices being evaporated, from houses being evaporated themselves. NATO, at the moment, can't really step over that line and get involved. But it's important that we support Ukraine in all the ways that we possibly can. And the sanctions are completely unprecedented, by the way. They're really going to cripple Russia. But it's important that we support it, because this is a battle for Western liberal democracy. This is the values that keep us all safe. I mean, we think the world lives in democracy. 6.4% of the world's population lives under democracy.
Well, you say that, but what do you think of Calvin's comments, though, that there is this liberal elite who almost have a bleeding heart mentality that is saying, oh, we should go in, and, it's terrible, how could we do this, and da-da-da-da-da, whereas the bigger picture is, well, he's coming for us next if we do get involved.
Yeah, I've got to agree with Calvin. It's bizarre to see people who a month ago were saying we've got to wear face masks to protect us from an incredibly survivable disease, to now be saying, well, maybe nuclear war wouldn't be that bad. It's like, there's no rationality there.